Hello? Hello? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's the way it works. The way it works is that you got to check because they like to do this thing where they, some reason, they just arbitrarily turn off the microphone. And they're still recording, but I don't have a record of what has been recorded. And they do this all the time. I've already told you you needed to cancel the patent on those voice files because they will be used against you. In the autumn of 2017, I was on the street. There was a food distribution outside of the Houston Public Library. It was across the street from the building where Deloitte has its offices, and also across the street from a parking lot, parking garage, where they would do simulations, including simulations I had to file reports on. One evening, while they were distributing the food, alleging as they did that they were committed to vegan and vegetarian cooking, they had a Planned Parenthood distribution that included alleged insect repellent. I believe it was a name brand that had serious chemicals in it. And they also handed out condoms. That night, while I was sitting there, I was upset because as a homeless woman on the street, the absolute worst decision you can make is to give a man condoms and give a man exclusive access to temporary labor where he's able to afford a hotel room, but a woman is not able to get a job where she can get daily cash or even weekly cash to purchase the hotel room herself. It is the most dangerous thing you can do to a woman who is on the streets for whatever reason, is to distribute condoms for free as part of a food distribution. I was angry, but I kept my mouth shut. I sat down, and at that point, I was violently electronically sexually assaulted. My understanding now is what happened is somebody triggered a billing in connection with a Planned Parenthood procedure I had had more than 20 years earlier as a way to admonish me for not performing that day in the manner they expected me to and not being grateful for the condom distribution. At that time, there was an earthquake in Iran. It killed thousands of people. This was not a coincidence. Somebody used directed energy weapons to trigger that earthquake. And I know, because they wanted me to pay some sort of extortion in agreeing to take condoms and have sex with a man that night. And when I did not, they made sure that the Forex rates for the day as they were posting were able to trigger that event and rape me as a reminder of what was expected of my performance. It really happened. The next day, I had enough money to get a morning drink at a Burger King. I was sitting in the Burger King watching the television. They had an announcement about a football player who just had a baby. He took the knee in the end zone. It was different than the reflections of what it meant to take the knee in regards to sporting events prior to that. Right after that, Joseph Biden was on the television discussing his loyalty pledge to Hillary Clinton. I saw it. I knew it meant something. It was an occult act. It was more than that. The numbers of casualties reported from that earthquake were immense. It was not the only time I was raped in conjunction with a triggering of an earthquake that killed scores of people, usually as a chastisement that I was obligated by somebody else's dictates to engage in an act of prostitution. And when I said no, they raped me and triggered an earthquake in another part of the world that killed thousands of people. I'm not crazy. It's that contemptible. I was paid to fill out an I-9. They wanted me to go get tampons the other night before I started menstruating, but with an understanding that buying tampons that night at the 7-Eleven would fulfill some sort of obligation as part of the federal debt service. I did not. I had hoped to engage in an alternative. There was a time frame when there was an announcement about how difficult it was for women in Iran to get sanitary products. This means something very substantial, especially because that announcement was made years before where we are now. I was only given $8 from my attempt to get gainful employment, despite the fact that I should already have recorded several hours worth of work. I should have had enough money, if nothing else, to be able to fulfill an obligation to pay on the only debt that's on my record, my credit record. Were I to have been able to be gainfully employed without being extorted or obligated into somebody else's understanding of what sort of chemical weapons disposal, or rather, chemical weapons diversion program I'm supposed to be participating in, it would be a different matter. The place where I'm working, presumably, I could use my employee discount to get feminine hygiene products that don't have chlorine, but I'm not allowed to make enough money to do that. I have to buy the tampons that have the chemicals in them. I don't have enough money from all of whatever else is going on to buy the feminine hygiene products that would prevent me from having to put a piece of cotton that has been bleached and has chlorine on it in my fucking vagina to absorb my menstrual blood. And that was absolutely intentional. They knew it. I believe they knew it. Somebody knew it enough to put that implant into my unconscious while I was sleeping on last Friday. The day that, not last Friday, the day they posted that amount, the morning, I saw. They wanted me to buy tampons that evening at the 7-Eleven because the money did not post until after all the stores were closed, and the only option I had was to go to the 7-Eleven. But I waited until now. Now, the place where I purchased this is the place where he used to be in affiliation with and work. Their pension fund is connected to and takes sponsorship from Chevron. Chevron is a sponsor of their network. I just purchased my tampons from there. Everything connected to my stock, my being, my blood, my body, my vagina, my genitals, my organs, my glands, my hair, my genomics, my biologics, my intangible property, my intellectual property, my ancestors, and my future children are mine. Do you want to contest that $8.31? You owe me a lot more. These were purchased today at $4.58. Before that, I purchased a book. A receipt registers at 4:40 p.m. This book is the follow-up to a book I read in preparation for the first public speaking I ever did. It was in the basement of a church in Chicago. It was on the Free Trade Area Agreement between the United States and Israel. It cited information that I had acquired from a publication provided by a former congressman from the state of Illinois. I told you they were foreign fucking infiltrators. The topic at the time was using that country as a relay for the trafficking of women to engage in acts of forced prostitution, as well as aid and abet smuggling. All kinds of smuggling. Apparently, almost 23 years later, that's exactly where it is today. Stay the fuck away from my genitals. Stay away from my fucking people. You had no right to try to prey upon the weakness of people after you attempted to engineer them and then copyright it for your exclusive use. You do not engage in any defense that I have been able to bear witness to for going on 23 years actively. You need to cease and desist. I am expecting contact in less than 24 hours. If you interfere, you will be held responsible in this life and every other life from here on out that you and I are connected through. And we already have obligations in the next life, as you well know. So you better get your arrears in order now.